Good evening, everyone. My name is Dimitri Zain, or you can call me Mr. Insane. And welcome to this Halloween episode. Last time I said that I was going to review a Jim Carrey movie for this October. And that film is the comedy horror movie titled Once Bitten. The story is about... Okay, I'm not gonna do that whole voice in the whole review, so I'm gonna speak normal. The story is about this guy named Mark Kendall, played by Jim Carrey, who's having some relationship problems with his girlfriend, played by Karen Coppins. Mostly that she doesn't want to have sex right now. Later, his two friends decided to take him on a night to a Hollywood bar in plans to get laid. And just there, Mark meets this mysterious woman who she comes into the name of the Countess, played by Lauren Hutton. And just there, they have a one-night stand. Or at least that's what he thinks, since this woman is nothing more than a vampire who's in the need of a virgin so she can keep her youth appearance. Afterwards, Mark starts to act a little bit more vampirish characterizations. So he is stuck in a relation trouble between this dark blood-sucking demon of the night and his high school sweetheart. Now, just to start off, even though this movie is classified as a comedy horror film, it is most likely a comedy film with a bit of horror elements. It's not really scary, it's cheesy, it has a lot of 80s vibes. In fact, the film's director, Howard Storm, has mostly done sitcoms like Everybody Loves Raymond, Full House. It is noticeable on his direction that the environment feels more quirky, comedy, sitcom-ish. The only thing that is missing is the live audience laugh. Now, with all that said, I still like this film. Does it hold up? No, it has a few problems, but I do find some enjoyment around the feature. Let's talk about Jim Carrey, which is interesting because this movie is considered to be his first starring role. Which I do agree, because his first ones are not considered him as a main character. Rubberface, he's a secondary character. Copper Mountain, he's hardly focused. Finders Keepers, not really. The only thing that was considered for him as a starring role was in the TV show titled The Duck Factory, but that was for television. For movies, this is his first film as a main character. Not to mention that it is the only Jim Carrey movie that takes place on Halloween. Well, except for Batman Forever, which was weirdly bizarre. But that's for another story. Now, going back with Carrey, I think he's really good in this film. I mean, granted, he's mostly playing a very grounded character in this role, since he's not so much like his popular roles like Ace Ventura or The Mask or Lloyd Christmas, which they're all wacky, over-the-top performances. And there's a few over-the-top moments in some scenes in this film, but for the most part, he just plays it very straight. He's very charming, likable, and he even is self-aware. Like, there's a moment where he actually says that, "I'm a high school student that does stupid things." I don't know why, but that moment always makes me laugh. The only thing that I consider for him a critique is that I kind of wish it was more of his vampire characterizations explored a little bit more. I mean, we only have a dream sequence that he only acts like a vampire. I mean, we usually have his stick like hissing at people or sleeping in coffins. Needless to say, I kind of wish it was more of that. I mean, granted, he will later play a parody of Dracula in a skit on A Living Color, but with all that said, I thought he was pretty good in the role. Like, I kind of wish it was more, but then again, the movie is very silly, and for what he was given, he was good in it. Another performance that is surprisingly good is Karen Coppins as Mark's girlfriend, which, even though this is a character that is not supposed to be that fascinating, she does bring a lot more natural and believable performance. Not to mention that she can be very funny at least in the third act of the film. Mostly one quote that I just can't stop laughing. Every time that I watch this film, I just quote it. Like, it's very memorable, and the best part of that is Carrey's reaction after that. Speaking of which, both her and Carrey have such good chemistry, or at least for the material that they were given to work with, which I thought it was fine. The Countess has his vampire butler, chauffeur, played by Cleavon Little, who is mostly known for his starring role in Mel Brooks' comedy Blazing Saddles. And I'll give it this, he brings a lot of presence in every scene that he's in, like a combination of flamboyance and elegance into his performance. I mean, granted, he's playing the gay best friend to our villainess, which basically that's what he is in this film, since, like I said, the director is mostly known for doing sitcoms and is a bit more comedy when it comes on focusing on the vampires in this film. I mean, he's kind of like Jack from Will and Grace, except with much less wackiness and more of a calmer tone. Speaking of Will and Grace, Megan Mullally is in this film in one small scene, and she's basically playing a younger version of Karen Walker with blonde hair and a bit more cynicism, if that is the word. It was only a cameo. The Halloween party dance is definitely one of my favorite scenes of the film, where Mark and his girlfriend are attending a high school Halloween party where the Countess comes in trying to seduce Mark, and they have a three-way dance. They have some impressive choreography, especially that not only the vampire is trying to bring some seduction on Mark, but his girlfriend does as well in her own way. Not to mention that this foreshadows Jim Carrey on doing a lengthy dance sequence in one of his future roles. Needless to say, it's both him and Karen Coppins that do the more impressive dance movements. Lauren Hutton does fine, but not as good as those two. The reason that I didn't talk about the Countess that much is because I didn't find her performance nor her character that amusing. I mean, yeah, she's supposed to be the seductive vampire, which Lauren Hutton does fine, and she can be very funny in a few scenes, but she's not really that engaging. It is definitely one of the weakest performances that this film shows. One of the themes that this film does not hold up very well is that weird homophobic vibe that appears during the movie, or at least in two scenes. One is where Mark and his friends are in the bar, where one of his friends goes to a table to try to win a girl, but unfortunately it turns out to be a transvestite, and you know how the scene plays. He gets nervous and all, but it's not nearly as heavy as the second scene, where Mark and his friends are taking a shower in high school, and in the scene, the two friends are trying to see if Mark has the vampire bite on his leg, and when they're trying to look, everybody mistakes them for being gay, and they even run out of the shower and shouting out something that I don't think it would hold up very well in today's standards. So, yeah, at first the scene was funny, but now it probably doesn't hold up very well. In conclusion, Once Bitten may not be considered to be a good vampire horror comedy, but at the same time, I'm a bit of a sucker when it comes to vampire comedies, even the ones that are not considered to be good. I mean, come on, they're better than Twilight. But going back with the film, there's a few scenes that make me laugh, some performances are very quirky, and while the film has a bit of a sitcom vibe that should belong in television rather than as a theatrical piece, it was at least fun to watch. Sure, the topics and themes don't hold up very well for today's standards, and it is an 80s product, so I think it should belong in that era rather than today. And while it is not the best Jim Carrey movie, it was a good start for his first role as in a main character. I mean, after that he would go on to play supporting roles, but it was a good start. And you know, I would love to see Jim Carrey doing horror comedies. In fact, he's in talks on starring in a film titled Alistair Arcane, which is based on a comic book. I haven't read it, but it sounds quite fascinating. and I would love to see Jim Carrey to star in it. Even if it's to work with director Eli Roth, which, as you know, I really hate most of his works. But hey, if you can at least make a fantasy film starring Jack Black a decent film, I give my hopes for this director. So, that's all I have to say, and I'll see you into the next review. As for now, happy Halloween.